Hello, and today we will continue with Devil's Gambit. You missed the last video where we got started on the VN and got introduced to these two characters here. You can go to the first video I made on this new VN. So, I'll go ahead and continue. Every day, people came and asked Dad questions, the whys and hows of a pain they had, which herbs would help and how much they cost. Whether you skinned your knee or broken arm or leg, he pats you up. If you broke into a fever, a glance was all he needed to know what was wrong. It followed then that Duke Leopoldino, who became interested in a wolf boy afflicted by a mysterious illness, turned to Dad. It also followed that the day we arrived at the mansion behind our lavish room's closed door, he asked me why I lied. You fell down the stairs, and at least I know you're not lying often, but you're terrible at it. He knew even the things you didn't want to hear, and had no trouble telling it all. When Grandpa was still alive, we had one of our fights. Later that night, Dad would talk again about the old tyrant of Oblon. That during his reign, had he asked for an education, they would have laughed him off. If he tried to grab a scalpel, they would have cut that hand off. And if he tried to run, they'd do away with his foot instead. That at my age, instead of spending his afternoons in a classroom, he was lost in a forest with trees made of cloth and the ground of mud and blood. Carrying a basin as his mud and blood caked feet splattered the sinister mixture everywhere, he went around picking up viscera that had fallen to the ground. Rather than treetops, there were hands, faces, and hanging livestock among the faces. Dad sometimes found Grandpa holding a large red blade. However, that was nothing compared to what the tyrant let his men do to Aunt Nora and the other women while they were out foraging. Aunt Nora was also just a child back then. That was why this became the breaking point. Grandpa and his allies turned their blades against the tyrant and let him taste what being livestock is like. Put the tyrant's head on a stick, his wife and children's too, and allowed a new lord to rise to power. And thanks to that, Dad turned us into a family of doctors. Dad loved medicine, to right the wrongs, set straight what was not, and set me straight he did. To think that I would pay his efforts by telling a lie. That Kagen kid did this, didn't he? His Grace warned me he'd be uncooperative, but I don't want to hear your excuses. Go to the lavatory and make yourself presentable. Clean your nose and take that door off. We'll see our patient when you return. Yes, Dad. Our patient was Kagen, which I didn't learn until we went into his room and found him sitting on the bed, hugging his knees and staring daggers at us. He didn't dare do anything with Dad in a guard there, but my father didn't approach him. He looked ready to jump at us, baring his fangs whenever Dad got too close, and while the guard kept us safe, his being there made it clear this wouldn't be easy. So we kept our distance at first. Dad retrieved his prismalium crystal and gathered magic. In the palm of his hand, the crystal began hovering in front of him. At his request, I took his journal and got ready to take notes. With a single eye, Dad looked at Kagen through the crystal. It seems alright at a glance, and the prismalium isn't picking up on anything either. That lines up with what the Duke already knew. The crystal, depowered, landed on his palm. Let's wait before we continue with this. In the meantime, Kagen, I'd like you to answer some questions. Please don't be afraid. We are only here to cure you. Do you understand? First, how do you feel throughout the day? Do you notice any symptoms before or after you fall unconscious? All questions fell on deaf ears. Suddenly, Kagen slumped over, then reached into his pocket for the green crystal. What is this? His life force is flowing outwards from one of the inner layers and bouncing all over the place. Nerves, bones, flesh, skin, all 4 layers are compromised. Irregular as it was, this didn't hurt Kagen, besides making him go unconscious around a specific time of the day. No matter how much we tried to wake him up, he wouldn't respond until his life force stopped running rampant. What it did was confuse Dad. He didn't know what he was looking at. He couldn't tell, no matter how many times he looked, how much he speculated, tried elixirs on the wolf. He couldn't understand or set it straight. I started anticipating the daily checkup, but that wouldn't be enough. No, Dad's confusion gave rise to a new greed within me that wouldn't be sated so easily. So despite how poorly our first encounter went, I would try to befriend Kagen again. I figured more of those nuts he was eating would make a nice peace offering. In retrospect, that was one of my better ideas, wasn't it? You can't narrow what motivated me to return to Renai down to a single thing. At first the money, obviously, but when the night mentioned the town's name, homesickness overcame me. Not even the long travels with my father elicited such a feeling. However, the Renai of 9 years ago is gone. Dad isn't here. There's a new Duke, and the town has changed. Kagen remains, but that isn't enough to shake off the cold. In the northwest section of town, dubbed the Baron, the spread-out sacks have been removed to make space for new houses and a hospital, though only a crude sign identifies the latter. The stables are where I remember them being, although no one is around yet. The rain did just stop. Rather than waiting to get a ride, I go to the Duke's mansion on foot, since it's not that far. On the way there, my thoughts sailed to the new Duke, Manuel. Many times I heard of him. He's become very well known in medicine in recent years. Both an accomplished surgeon and researcher, he's authorized an enormous collection of journals on the bodies of many civilized species. His work is so all-encompassing, some consider it mandatory reading no matter which discipline you practice. I've snapped some of his works over the years, and I can attest there's some truth to that. His journal on boars saved my skin last summer when I had to treat one on short notice. The other can completely compensate for a lack of experience, but it's nothing short of amazing how much one can learn about people from faraway lands thanks to him. Not to mention he came up with some useful gadgets such as my glasses. It's admirable that he's accomplished so much at his age despite his circumstances, which is why the suffering he's caused in Renai makes me conflicted, and I wouldn't have returned if not for him harming me. I don't know what to think. The mansion is as I remember it, except for the 2 guards stationed at the entrance. After explaining who I am, they let me in, and one of them escorts me to the Duke's study. Inside is as excessive as it was during Leopoldino's time, just with more bookshelves and shiny displays. What stands out is a sweet scent that I don't recall. Some of it is herbs, wax, and oil. There's more that I can't recognize. We're already at the study's door anyway. Please wait here. After a minute of staring at a portrait of a sad-eyed lioness, The guard returns with an announcement. Dr. Hector of Oblon, Duke Manuel Leopoldo Sebastião Maria Jose Fiel Aragal Manuel Ricardo. He takes a deep breath. The Restauração Gonzaga de Florencia e Burgundia e Venezia will now see you. As they enter the study, where Dad and Leopoldino once held many private conversations, light hits me on the face. Behind a wooden desk, a window, at least twice as tall as I am, overlooks the garden and separates the study from a balcony almost as wide as itself, perfect for enjoying one nice afternoon. To either side of the window are cabinets for prizes above those diplomas, many of which are written in what I can only assume are foreign tongues. The other walls are mostly occupied with diagrams, anatomic models, more bookshelves, and cupboards brimming with ornamented glasses and wine bottles. I find the Duke in the center of the room, working next to an operating table. My heart almost jumps out of my chest when I see what's on it. A vivisected wolf corpse, with its guts and organs spilling out. The rib cage has been sawed apart, removed and set aside, the legs missing, revealing precise surgical incisions, the flank cut open, under it a sickly tinted liver. Yet there's no smell of ammonia, nor the smell of death. The Duke looks at the liver intently, probing at it with a pen. Wax. It's all made of wax. What is this? Does your kind lack the gift of speech? Oh, gather your wits, Hector, and remember the proper greeting. I'm Hector of Oblon. I'm honored to be in your presence, Your Grace. The Duke places the pen on a tray and takes off his glove. He frowns at me. What are you? A sort of witch doctor? I hesitate before reaching into my belt bag and taking out one of my elixirs. I suppose so, although specialized in surgery, Your Grace, but I'm still a skilled healer. Allow me to see. He takes the elixir and spreading it with a prismalium monocle he produces from under his coat. Then the lion nods, satisfied. Acceptable. And while returning the elixir, his eye trails down to my belt. Is that a pair of prismalium glasses I spy? Indeed. That green tint is unmistakable. Duke Manuel drags the figure across the monocle's metallic frame. It's one of my first designs, but I'm still quite proud of it. It utilizes copper as a conduit to more efficiently power the crystal, allowing you to activate it by gathering magic just on the tip of your fingers. It reduces the strain on the user's eyes significantly too. He clears his throat. Excellent. You are better prepared than it appears at first glance. Truly, doctors can come from any background these days. Thank you. What am I meant to do then? He opens one of the desk's drawers and takes the badge from it. His golden leg is noisy as he walks. Take this and head to the hospital. There you'll receive your instructions. You spotted the hospital on the way, yes? Indeed. Before I go, could you allow me to ask a question, Your Grace? He glances at the wet sculpture, but ultimately gives me the time of the day. I repeat in discreet terms what Kagen told me and ask what he's trying to accomplish. Ah, so the wolves already told you about my expedition. It's wise of you to seek my side of the story. Those savages can't understand the greatness of my mission. If it's wise, then why am I already regretting that I asked, though my only choice is to listen now that I open my mouth? He approaches a bookshelf and grabs a thick volume, holding it to show me its cover. The foundational title, The Basis of Modern Medicine. Do you know how old this work is? It was published in the 2nd century, in the year 162, by an alchemist and a healer named Karina, making it 710 years old. In 7 centuries, we have made little advancement in our understanding of medicine. What's more, the fifth layer, reason, remains a mystery to us. I intend to advance medicine by finishing Karina's work and unraveling the 5th layer's secrets. And you think the truth behind those secrets hides in the Eye Valley? I have reasons to suspect the Eye Valley will help me further this objective, if only that corpse will remain dead. Corpse? He sighs as he returns the book to its place. The demon, who certain yet does exist. The Wanai of 9 years ago is gone, where once its demons were brought up with pride for an era long gone, or as mischief trying to scare an impressionable foreigner, now they are spoken about as though a present threat. Be it because speaking of them lightly will incur the wrath of a duke, or because they do still exist. Manuel turns away, hiding the right side of his face. What are you staring at, cur? But forgive me, was expected to hear that from you, your grace. Keep your eyes to yourself unless you want to lose them. Now enough of you. Away! By the time he waves me off, I'm all right to excuse myself. While I have learned what the Duke wants, I am still baffled by questions about the Eye Valley, the 5th layer, and the demons of Wanai. However, you have work to do, Hector. Don't get distracted. I reached the hospital with ragged breath and with weary feet. The trip from town to the Duke's mansion and back isn't as easy as I remember. A gray maned lion mans the reception. When I saw a gray maned lion mans the reception. I saw on the bed she looks at my heaving body with sympathy before producing a massive worn-out book and dropping it on the desk with a slam. God, please, let this be my last story for the day. The lion explains what is expected of me. The hospital hosts the patients in the diverse conditions, while those who can move are sent back home, where they receive care from their assigned doctor. I must do 6 hours worth of work today. 2 must be on duty in the hospital, while for the rest I can be assigned to a resident instead. I can choose to do more for a bigger salary too. When asked about the schedule, the lion says it changes regularly. It's always on display at the reception, so it's my responsibility to check it every day. I rather care for those at their home. The lion opens the book, a record of patients, and looks through it as he writes my name in 4 entries. Finally, he grabs a map of Wanai, circling some locations, and adding a name next to each before handing it to me. Lose that. To finish up, I'll give you a quick tour of the hospital. It's mostly so you know where everything is and are familiar with the equipment. Alright, that sounds like a good idea. Paulo, cover me for a moment. Dust is falling over Wanai. By the time I get out of the hospital, the wolf in dark clothes walks around, checking the lamps and refilling them with oil and with oils needed. Everyone else is headed home or to a tavern for dinner. Orwell's nest is more alive than ever. The bustling of dozens of drunken wolves shake the building. The dragon's smile makes me feel better when I sit at the bar. Well, first day friend. No, aside from a lot of walking, I'm still tired for the trip, I think. Did Kagen come by? Didn't see him. Do you need him for anything? No. Are you hungry? Orwell gets me a piece of bread, meat, and a bit of fruit. Thank you very much. When did you settle here, Orwell? More or less 5 years ago. Mine was a family of merchants. We ran away from our home when we learned that a rebellion was approaching. All the way to Wanai? Oh no, they stayed in a nearby country. I split off and kept going east. While Orwell is talking, I whip the bread in two pieces and put what food and meat remain between them. It's just a tight fit that I have to figure out how to hold the makeshift sandwich so it doesn't fall apart. I always wanted to travel, you see new places, meet new people, learn new tongues. I also enjoy being the tallest person in the room, But eventually I arrived here, and I fell in love with the town, so I settled down. It's a great town. It's a shame I didn't have the chance to visit again until now. Then you took the job because you wanted to see Kagen again. I'm about to take a bite from my sandwich when that last sentence causes me to tense up. The food and meat slip out from the front, hitting me in the chin before falling to the plate for a plop. Where did that come from? Sorry, but you looked so happy when he was around. I figured he was your favorite part of the town, He doesn't say anything strange, Hector. He's just fooling around. I still consider him my best friend, so yes, I miss him. I've heard Kagen used to be differently, to think he became a peacekeeper. He always disobeyed the adults. He used to throw rocks at the windows, put bugs in people's shoes, toss a bag's worth of salt into the food, and tell creepy stories. He had no shortage of those. What a gutsy kid. And you befriended him? Thinking back, maybe he let me get close because he was lonely. Some nights I'd sneak out to go to his room. We'd sit together in the bed and read a book until we fell asleep. The only problem was that he wouldn't want me to leave the next morning. But see, Kagen wasn't just a menace, he was a pretty smart boy too. I suppose he just mellowed out with age. Very true, though I'm surprised to hear he was so energetic. Why? It's just that you mentioned he was one of your father's patients. I figured he was sick when you were around. I suppose not. He was, but it wasn't the kind of disease that had him debilitated the entire time. Dad didn't like to admit it, but we never really understood what was wrong with him. He just got better one day. It could be we weren't meant to understand it, and that Kagen had fallen ill for a reason other than suffering from an imbalance. The circumstances had been too perfect. Had it happened a year earlier or later, it wouldn't have been with Dad. And I would have set foot in one eye. Dad kept breaking me after the first time because he realized Kagen trusted me. He needed me here to do his job, so the timing had been crucial. As though God planned our encounter, willed it, that is what I believe to this day. I wonder if His Grace, Manuel, wouldn't have a clue. Do you think so? If he can't identify that mysterious disease, then nobody can. I immediately recalled the mask in that furious glare, but as much as the Duke intimidates me, I was onto something. I suppose it wouldn't hurt to ask him, and that's how I see him. As much as I'm satisfied with my answer, Dad would have liked to know the truth, if there is any. After finishing dinner, I wish the dragon a good night and go upstairs, tired as I am, and with a full belly the wolves' voices don't keep the dreams away for long. I was hoping to run into Kagen again today. We should read a book together sometime. We're not kids anymore, but I'd still like to fall asleep next to him like in the old times. I wish he was here now. Watching Kagen, I came to understand what Dad was said about bad influences. I didn't get why I would let myself get dragged into trouble, but I was too naive. What he meant was that I would want it. Breaking the rules felt good, liberating. Sometimes when we were out in the forest, Kagen would look off in some direction away from the mansion for a long time, so waiting his absence. But where a child wandered off to, the Duke controlled the town. Deeper into the forest was certain death, and the guards would easily capture him in the fields. Instead of running, he made trouble for the guard servants and anyone near enough to catch on fire. But Leopoldino didn't care about broken windows, missing jewelry, or shiny things the wolf touched without permission. The Duke displayed his riches to inspire respect, the kind that reminds you of your position in life. For a short while, Kagen looked to me like a pitiful, powerless kid, but that changed one day when Leopoldino got him to join us for breakfast. Spiteful as he was, Kagen used this as a chance to embarrass the Duke by breaking old table manners and disdainful look exhausted the lion's patience, and he slapped the wolf. Kagen grinned and he hunched over, holding his cheek in pain, but grinned nevertheless. And it tore into the Duke, hurting him inscrutably. I don't know why, but it felt like some kind of justice. As an adult, I could look back, knowing how tyrannical Leopoldino was, as a child standing up to him and hitting him in the one place that hurt was no small thing. Even after he sent Kagen back to his room, we weren't hungry anymore, and so we were afraid the overflowing venom between the two had contaminated the food. When I checked on Kagen later and told him this, he laughed and then laughed some more at my aghast expression. But whenever Kagen woke up after going unconscious, it was as though his illness had robbed him of all energy. That called it cyclical lethargy. Rather than resuming his usual antics, the wolf stayed in his room and only came out much later, either for a walk or dinner. Even in front of the Duke, he just lowered his head and remained silent. I was accompanying him on one of his walks through the hallways when I commented he looked tired. "You checked you with the Prismillium a bunch of times, yes? You seem perfectly fine after you wake up, but it's so unlike you to just sit in your room, not making any trouble." "Give me some credit. There again, you seem like trouble. So maybe you would like to know that I commit a little mischief at night." "Oh? Every night I take a book to my room to read it. It is not allowed to touch the bookshelf without permission, but as long as you return it, no one has to know." "You should join me one of these nights, Hector. It would be fun. I'd even let you pick what you want to read." By which he meant I had to steal the book myself. A few nights later, I was watching Dad snore from my bed, trying to gather the courage to get up. What if I made too much noise and woke him up? What if he woke up in the middle of the night and didn't find me? But then I recalled Kagen holding his cheek, him grinning, and the venom. I couldn't tell if it was envy or admiration that ultimately encouraged me to sneak out and head to his room, making a brief detour to visit the bookshelf I had picked that morning. "What did you bring tonight, Hector?" "A book on herbalism. You mentioned you'd like to know what Dad's doing to you, so..." "Come, let's see." We sat shoulder to shoulder on the bed, Kagen holding the book, sharing warmth and soft fur. "Oh, goldroot. This is the one you make into tea when you have a stomach ache. Right? It says it can treat heart and stomach diseases, and in some species boost fertility. However, its most common use is easing the symptoms of diarrhea. Pretty impressive for a home remedy. Many home remedies are like less refined versions of elixirs. What's the difference? That you mix it with more stuff? Not quite. Illness is the manifestation of an imbalance in your life force, the measure in your body. For example, let's say you get a fever. A good herbalist will first check you with a Prismillium crystal to see what's wrong. Most of the time, a fire fruit elixir will help address an imbalance, maybe mixed with some moon glow to lower your body temperature until you get better. Although a worse herbalist will give you just the moon glow. But can't the fire fruit also make you sick of the stomach? That's why you brew an elixir rather than just feeding the patient with raw ingredients. Animals and plants possess magic too. That's why they can be poison, sickness, or medicine. Brewing filters out the are the harmful parts while bringing out healing ones. But it's a pretty complicated process. You wouldn't brew an elixir for a badger the same way you would for a wolf. It also depends on the layers you want it to affect. Before the Duke employed us, we were on a trip across neighboring countries, so I could get first-hand experience tweaking and brewing elixirs for other species. Dad certainly didn't plan for me to get this much practice on wolves. What species do you think these recipes are for? Badgers, I think. I would if someone from my country wrote it. See, that's why God blessed us with such good noses, so we'd be unmatched herbalists. Like with the nuts. I said, putting my chin on the wolf's shoulders. He was looking somewhere far away now. What's on your mind? What you say about plants having magic reminded me of the Eye Valley. That's another one of Wanai's legends, isn't it? Not a legend, the Eye Valley still exists beyond the forest, though no one goes there because it's too dangerous. But they say that there are things in the soil near it that change the vegetation there. There was complaining once that the ingredients we got from the forest were too strong. That's because of the Eye Valley? I yawned and nuzzled up to his chest. What's wrong? It's so early. I'm getting comfortable. Kagen shifted and wrapped an arm around me before he continued reading. Every once in a while, he'd ask me something and I'd mumble a reply. While not tired, I was sleepy. The sleepiness felt when sitting by a campfire in the dark with licking flames capturing my gaze and warmth cradling my trembling body. It probably was about midnight when Kagen yawned, put the book down on the nightstand and extinguished the lamp's fire. We lay down together, his hand on mine, as we drifted off. His hand on mine as we lay down. His tight grip, he raises his arms above his head and brings them down. He splits the log clean in half, though I only see the moment both halves fall off the stump. I was sitting behind Kagen, watching him, taking all of him in, from hands to shoulders, every crease of his gray back, his tail poking out of the hole under his belt. The wolf looks back at me and talks, but I take a while to remember what words are and how to speak. I'm sorry, what did you say? Got your head in the clouds? I was just thinking about work. What a coincidence, I said. How did the meeting with the Duke go? It was going well until the end. Somehow I set him off. I heeded your warning, of course. Or rather, he became angry before I could reply. You still have your head and everything else in place, so it couldn't have been that bad. Maybe I stared at his mask, but I didn't mean to. It just baffled me. What then? Kagen turns to face me, his naked chest and shoulders in full display. They expand and contract with every breath, lowering my eyes in further. My hands move themselves to my lap. Not only did he mention the demons of Wanai, he said they still exist. I still have mentioned that, but I figured you were used to everybody here going demons this or demons that. From the townsfolk, but not from the Duke. What do you think? Could they still be around? The past is the past. Nothing you say can change that, even if you're a noble. His words sting me, and the cold from yesterday rears his head. Come on, Hector, he is talking about a different matter altogether. Don't let your memories distract you from what's in front of you. Besides, you are too old to be sitting in bed and holding hands, no? Hand in the clouds again? No, anyway. Why is he saying that? Then, surely he didn't convert to demon worship. I figure it's because of one of the early incidents of the Eye Valley expedition. Back then, we had more line workers in town because they hadn't been scared away yet. While Kagen is telling the tale of what happened back then, my eyes drift off to the forest. I can almost see them, dozens of lions crossing into the valley, closely followed by beasts pulling wagons. As they near the cursed chasm, they come across ruins, whether they are of woven origin or belong to a different long-gone civilization they don't know. All paint and most engravings have faded or crumbled, leaving no clues at a glance. Crossing the forest had proved challenging despite all the preparation. It was just all who attempted to reach what lies beyond it, be it through fallen trees, rivers overflowing, or wild animals. But now they're almost there. All they need is a ruin that has a ceiling, and for that ceiling not to look like it'll collapse at any second. They don't trust this place. They've heard about the dangers in the past expeditions led by Duke Leopoldino and many others who once laid claim to the land. So they send two to check if the walls are holding up, or if the terrace still supports their weight. Are there any predators or pests nesting here? They stop when they find a fitting ruin to make into an outpost. Tomorrow they'll venture into the twisting, breathing depths of the valley in search of a spot to build a settlement, the first of many, according to the Duke. That night a scout goes up to the terrace to escape the dense air in the ruins. One beast below whimpers. It must have seen a wild animal, he thinks. He looks down, searching for it. Then he spots a saddle dancing toward the woods, along with two bloody rubies that stare back at him. Kagen brings his axe down again, then adds the wood to a pile beside him. In the following days, the men fell ill one by one, until there weren't enough people to continue the expedition. After their return, that same scout kept saying the saddle was a demon. The Duke dismissed it as a delirium at first, but came around to believing it later. God, that reminds me of some curses I've read about. What happened then? Sweet bugs. They're parasitic insects that infest food to get eaten and lay eggs inside a host. They're very active this time of the year. The lions didn't notice them in the ruins and they got in their food. A demon being behind it would be less nightmarish. They only live in the valley, thankfully. I'm never going there. What happened to the lions? They got better, but the more incidents that took place, the stronger the demon's rumors grew, scaring more lions away. And the ones that returned home warned others against participating in their expedition, even mentioning the demons. And that's how we're wired here. Since he can't get more lions, the Duke is plucking wolves from town instead and hiring doctors to patch them up when they get hurt. I must say, this makes me feel guilty that I'm taking the Duke's money. Don't be, it's nobody's fault but the Duke's. Kagen lets go of his axe and throws his arms back in a long stretch. I grip my knees, nails digging into fabric. Headed to the river, you coming? And then threw fabric and fur into my skin. On the way to the river, I'm barely holding a chuckle. I'm walking a few steps behind Kagen, hoping he doesn't notice, though it would be no wonder if he did. The moment he had mentioned the river, my mind conjured a most scandalous image of me and the wolf bathing together, me minding my own business, when he suddenly tackles me from behind, wrapping his arms around me. Then we play wrestle before I let him work my back and shoulders with those large, rugged hands. His fingers scrub away the filth, undoing the knots under my skin. How silly I had felt when in reality he came back out of his sack with his cape on, carrying a bucket full of clothes in one hand and a board in the other. Such an idiot jumping to conclusions. This can't be just nostalgia of me being impressed at how much my friend has grown. But what is it then? It makes me so afraid to think about it that my mind goes numb. For good reason, Hector. You couldn't handle it. You already have enough on your plate. Please be happy with just watching Kagen. You don't need his hands or yours, or your back. Being here with him is reason enough to be happy. Don't squander it. Besides, I might be jumping to conclusions again. Kagen always brings out my last side. Here we are. He climbed down to the riverbank, and Kagen places his things next to a boulder. He then undoes the straps on his chest. What are you doing? I don't want these clothes to get wet. The wolf tosses his spalders and cape aside. His pants are next. I go up as he reveals the well-known loincloth under. He then empties the bucket on the bank before sitting down and getting to work. By the way, I got sidetracked with the Duke and whatnot. I wanted to ask how your first day of work went. I hope nobody gave you trouble. Some of the more thick-headed folk reject their doctor's help because the Duke hired them. I can't blame them for their anger, but they are directed at the wrong people. No, they were most kind. Good to know. It's silent except for the noise of Kagen rinsing his clothes before throwing them onto the rock. The scrubber beat them with a board. When he's finished with a piece, he throws it back into the bucket and moves on to the next. God, his pants were barely holding him back before. Now that loincloth. No, stop. Think about anything else had to talk to him. I've been meaning to ask, where did you get these? The armor? One morning, a knight sewed up at home with that in a bag of coins, dropped them off and told me to keep doing a good job. I learned Manuel appointed me as peacekeeper the same day. Imagine my surprise. Can I see it? The wolf nods. I kneel next to the armor. It's so heavy that I can't imagine wearing it for a few minutes, let alone most of the day, as Kagen does. Even my untrained eyes can tell it's high quality work. Not only the spalders, but the cape too. Only knights wear things like this. My nose catches a spicy yet pleasant aroma. Toward the middle of the cape, it's hard to sense it with the smell of earth and Kagen mixed in, so I bring it closer to sniff it. It's familiar, like I've sensed traces of this before, pollen from a flower I never paid any mind to, perhaps. Kagen, what is the smell? The wolf's ears twitches as he comes to my side. I didn't think this through. He's too close. He takes a whiff and after a moment chuckles. Where are you being cheeky? What is he talking about? But before I can ask, he reaches out to his pants and cautiously smells the backside. My heart stops. I guess I'll clean these too. He clumps the cape and pants before tossing them into the pile of dirty laundry. Then he gets up with a grunt, undoes his loincloth and sends it with the rest of his clothes. I can see his privates dangling out of the corner of my eye. Since we are at it, do you want me to wash anything of yours, Hector? Don't worry, I can dry it in no time. No, thank you. All right. As though he had thrown away his carefulness alongside his clothes, Kagen walks into the river to continue working, not minding in the least that he's getting wet. If he'll be doing laundry naked, then he might as well get a bit cleaner in the process, he must be thinking. As for me, I'm trying to not be too obvious in my attempt to hide the tent in my pants. His muscles being relaxed compared to when he was cutting wood doesn't make them any less mesmerizing. My God, is he as soft as he looks? I wonder how it would feel to lie on him. Work aside, are you enjoying being back in town? Oh, yes, although I haven't had a chance to relax and talk to people just yet. Besides you, what do you have in mind? I had been thinking Finbar, but it turns out I got assigned to him, so I saw him this morning. I was surprised he'd always been on the shorter side for a wolf, but he still used to be so stocky. Age has been rough on him, it happens. I guess so. At least his children are helping him with the forge. But seeing teaching them to use it has been a big undertaking, too. Big indeed, yes. Kagen is saying something probably about Finbar, but what's in front of me occupies my entire world. In my years as a doctor, I've seen my fair share of naked men, but I've never witnessed anything like this. Could I even handle it? I don't know. I never. Hector, hello? Ah, sorry, I was just thinking. Did you get enough sleep last night? It's just, I need to take a leak, but I didn't want to interrupt you. I'll be right back. Sure thing. I hide behind a tree much farther than needed. I'm still cupping my quads as though afraid somebody will witness my sin. How could I forget? Wolves have anal glands. You will enjoy his ass smell, Hector. But how was I supposed to know? It smelled too good. Oh God, it smelled too good. Twitching under my tent only adds to my turmoil. And when he took his loincloth off right next to me, what if he had noticed them? Would he have shown me that arrogant smile again, put his hand on my head, caressed my cheek, and a whimper escapes me as my hand rubs my waxen. Fingers tempted to slip under my pants, but you can't, Hector. If you do anything here, Kagen is bound to notice. You shouldn't underestimate a wolf's sense of smell either. Calm down. Think of something clinical. The knife cuts through the herbs. I put my finger on the scales to hook. Cotton absorbs the blood. The elixir boils. Knife, hook, blood, elixir. Thankfully, Kagen is too busy to notice how long it took me to return. We talk about my patience, me keeping my eyes on the river all the while until the wolf finishes cleaning everything but what he was wearing gets thrown into the bucket. Are you going back like this, or? Of course not. Kagen looks for a spot with some exposed dirt. Then he buries a claw into the earth and moves his arm, drawing a circle and a shape inside of it. A circle? I didn't know you were a maze too. I worked at a swine for a while, learned some tricks. As I trace a circle around the circle, Kagen tosses his wet clothes on top of it and touches the ground. The area around his palm glows as he releases magic and does a circle. Perhaps he puts too much magic into it, seeing as the circle's glow intensifies before raining for an instant, but he stabilizes it as soon as humidity evaporates from his clothes. He then steps on the circle to dry himself enough to put them back on. Good enough, I'll hang the rest to dry. It's a relief that I don't have to keep my gaze from drifting down to his quads anymore. Now, if only I could look him in the face instead of the chest. So right here. Okay, so apparently the lions in the Duke was this area, I think a canyon, and they claim to see a demon in the area. Well, they claim that that there was demon presence in the area, and because of that, the lions and the Duke decided to head back into town because they lost some soldiers. So, and plus, with the lions deciding not to go back to the canyon, there are a lot of wolves that are deciding to go there instead. Uh, but again, Kaken says something about there being insects that got into the food of these soldiers and made them sick, and probably wasn't because of a demon, but just insects planting eggs in their food and stuff like that. So Hector certainly is into Kagan. I mean, him being Kagan being naked in the river like that. I mean, yeah, he really was turned on with Kagan, and wonder how their relationship will blossom as we continue into the game. So, in addition to Hector being a mage himself, Kagen is a mage also, and he did a little magic trick and made a circle and put a circle in it, and he was able to make magic. So, suddenly, the person, the big wolf there behind him, probably is a demon himself. We'll have to see, but that's what I'm thinking. The fact that he's in the picture behind him, certainly he's going to play an important role into the story with the two of them. So, we'll continue with Devil's Gambit next time. Thank you all very much for watching. Goodbye.